Hello friends. Welcome back to the Paperless Plannery. My name is Candace and I am the owner of the Paperless Plannery. It is a digital stationery type of boutique, I guess you can say. I have a presence on the here on YouTube, also on Instagram. I have one on TikTok, and I also have an Etsy shop. So if you are new to this content, again, welcome. Here I do digital planning, which is exactly what it sounds like: planning, list making, all of these things using my iPad and an Apple Pencil. I actually have two iPads. I have this big iPad Pro 11-inch. And this Apple Pencil Pro that I use for creation, also for work. And then for my personal planning, I use the newest version of the iPad mini, and again, a Apple Pencil Pro. For my planning, I use the Noteful app. I started digital planning years ago using the Good Notes app. And then earlier this year, I moved over to Noteful. It has almost been like 9 months almost that I've been in Noteful. So I feel that I'm really well versed on how to use Noteful, how it works for me. And I moved over just because of some of the glitching and some of the other problems that GoodNotes was having, and they still continue to have, unfortunately. Products in my shop, I do make them still for GoodNotes and Noteful. But today, that's not what this is about. Today, I am going to talk to you about Noteful. I've done videos like this before, but I feel that I know on my personal timelines, there's an influx of people trying Noteful, maybe people coming back to Noteful. I know for a while there, people were trying it and sort of getting overwhelmed maybe and going back to GoodNotes. But now I'm seeing a lot of people come back to Noteful and staying with Noteful. So I want to do another how to customize your Noteful video, just with some tips and tricks if you're someone new or if you're thinking about making this switch. I hope to make this sort of an easier journey for you. So I'm going to be talking about toolbar customization, what you should do when you first get the app, and so forth and so on. First of all, Noteful can be purchased in the Apple, what's it called? The App Store, I guess. I have the Pro version. When I purchased it back in March, it was $4.99. I believe now it is $5.99. That does give you a lifetime subscription, so that's a great thing. You can get a free subscription. Unfortunately, I can't really speak to what all that includes, because when I went for Noteful, I just went directly to the Pro because the price was already so much better than it was for GoodNotes. And I figured even for the $5 that I was spending, even if I didn't use it for whatever reason, it was $5. I spend more than that on a coffee sometimes, so I didn't mind making that initial investment. When I downloaded the app, and when you download the app, it'll look very similar to this. You'll only have this one caret here that'll say notebooks. Nothing else will be here. These are all customizations and things that I've added, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You will have a little plus sign here. Let me make sure it's in the frame. Yes. And that's where you would go to create your first notebook, import a file, or scan documents, okay? Quick Create is like a quick note. So what I would suggest, and this is in no specific order, but I would suggest when you first decide to come to Noteful, you have to make it look the way that works best for you. Noteful, when you first get it, it will look like this, and it'll be this light version. Nothing wrong with this light version. I'm not the biggest fan, and let me see if I can show you why. Let's go to my daily for today, actually. Okay, this is my daily for today. Just some things that I have to get done. And this is what it looks like filled. And this is what it looks like sort of spanned out, I guess. You can definitely move your canvas around in Noteful, which is a good thing and a bad thing, depending on who you ask. I don't mind it. What I did mind is the gray around here. And this was a little light for me. I do like the cleanliness, I guess, of it. I haven't used it in light mode in a while. I'm just, at this point, I'm used to dark mode. So if you want to change to dark mode, because it's going to come in light mode. What you can do is you go to themes and it gives you options for light mode, dark mode, or system. And system means some people, I think on my iPhone I have, excuse me, when the sun goes down, all of my apps go into dark mode. So you can do it system, meaning however you have the system set up on your iPad, your Noteful is going to do the same. I prefer to just keep mine on dark. And then we have the toolbar. We'll talk more about the toolbar in just a moment here, but the toolbar, you can either have that always in dark mode or have it match the appearance. There is not like an always light mode, I guess, unless you're, I guess if you're always on light mode, then it would match, it would be light, but if not, then you would either have dark or match appearance. I hope that made sense. So that's the first thing that I did, was I got it looking the way that I want it to look. I also stand by the fact that this app works for you however you set it up to work for you. So if you don't take the time to customize it, to get it looking and performing the way that you want, you're not going to stick with it. And I feel like if you want to try it, if you stick with it for at least a week, you won't go to any other note-taking app because it really is that good. Okay. It gives you some options here for notebook templates. I actually have never even played around in here. I know where to find my notebook templates, but it gives you like notebook cover options. Very odd that they would put that there because there's another place that you can find that. And then the type of paper. There are things that you can change, like you can change the size of the paper. You can change the orientation of the paper. So right now, everything is being shown in portrait. If you click this, it'll show everything in landscape. I just keep it at portrait. Line spacing. So that's a really big one. If I'm handwriting, I really have to have like a controlled line space. Too much space, it makes my handwriting look a little sloppy. And if it's too small, it looks a little condensed. So if you're someone like that, and that matters to you, you have options there. And then you can change the line thickness. Again, if you like a more, I think it's like a ruled, I think it's called ruled line page. You could do thin or you can do medium. I don't really mess around in too much of that, but I just wanted to show you that it was there. Something else I would suggest doing, if you have multiple iPads like myself, and you want to be able to see your Noteful the same on all iPads, meaning if I do something here in my planner, when I go to my iPad mini, I want to see those changes reflected there without having to manually sync them. I would suggest clicking on Use iCloud. That's going to periodically sync your, and I don't know how often, I don't know if it's every time a change is made, but it is going to sync your Noteful apps between the two devices. So I would suggest doing that. Okay. There are a few more things that I would suggest. This first one is to add a page. So it's called Pull to Add Page. I think it comes turned off. I like to keep it turned on, and let me show you what that will look like. So this is just some personal things that I'm working on. I have these on just regular paper. If I want to add a page after this, I can hit this plus sign, go to page, and then just choose the current page, like the current format of the page. Or easier than that, as long as I have pull to add on, which I do, you literally just pull it, you'll see this check and release, and it'll give you a new page. So that is something I think that GoodNotes has as well, very similar. So if you're used to that, I would say to definitely do that. You can change the page number indicator. So if we go back to this notebook, let's go, there it is. The number indicator is here. It goes away after a while, so there it is. The number indicator is here. We will talk more about the number indicator in a minute, but in this section, it gives you the option, and this is all under document editing. You can put it on the bottom left. You can never show it. I don't know if I would never show it. I like to see how many pages are in a notebook so I can know what page I'm on. There's also a really cool hack as well that I'm going to show you that includes that. So you can put it on the top right or left or the bottom right or left, or never show if you like. Display and zoom, the zoom and ruler. I use the ruler, and that pretty much just says that, do I have my ruler on? Let me see, I might not have my ruler on. But when I have my ruler on, it stays in the lower right-hand side. So when I do have it on, it's in the right-hand side. Ruler units, I like to use the inches. Apple Pencil hover, that means that with the Apple Pencil Pro, I'm not sure if it's all Apple Pencils, you can hover over the text and you can sort of feel it haptic over the text. It's sort of good for if you're reading and following along, if you are doing something where you need to be able to precisely get to certain words of a document, or do like certain shapes or whatever, just to know that you are, like, for accuracy, I guess. That's good. Palm rejection, don't really mess around with that too much, so I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to speak on that incorrectly. And then this one is a good one that I like to keep on: automatically open imported document. So I'm often taking documents from my files and open them up here. A lot of times it's just, let me see if I can show you. So a lot of times it is in my templates. This is my template for my business. So I will go here and hit open. And what it's going to do, of course I didn't do it that time, but what it usually does, and maybe because I wasn't in something already. So let's try it again, because I want to give you like a for real, like, what am I trying to say? Actually, I can't. I just realized why I can't, because I'd have to go out of this app, go into files and do it. But what pretty much that does, if you're already in a notebook in Noteful, and let's say you have your Noteful open, but you're also in files, or you're also in another app, and you want to import something into Noteful, having that on will ask you, do you want this to open like in a separate document or a current document? So it gives you that option. So I always keep that on. Okay, so first things first, when you download the app, I say click the N in the upper left, and that's where you can find all of these different options. So those are the first options I would suggest turning on. Second options I would suggest turning on would be, go into my notebooks. And I just did some rearranging on mine, so I think I'm going to have to go into a notebook. So let's go back into my daily planner. This is actually my full planner and my planner hub, so this is what it usually looks like. When you first import something, anything, into Noteful, the very first time, I'm going to make sure I stay in the frame for you guys, and I'm going to actually zoom you in just a little bit so that you can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so here we're going to look at these three things here. These three lines are very important. This first one is the layers. We can do an entire different video on layers because I don't feel like you, and this is personal opinion, you don't have to listen, but I feel like on your first day or even week of Noteful, it's probably best to not do layers. You can set layers up at any time. You just can't delete them. So I would suggest getting comfortable with the app, getting comfortable with where things are before you do layers. Or if you're going to do layers, keep it very, very simple, okay? So this we won't talk about. I do want to talk about this square here because this is your view, and I'll go ahead and zoom you guys out a little bit so you can see it. This is your view, and again, this is one of those things where everything that you set up in here is going to personalize this app for you, and it's going to help you be able to feel more confident and comfortable when you're using it, okay? Very, very interesting. When you first set up and start with Noteful, it defaults in a vertical view. I think someone asked me the other day about their pages, and they couldn't get their pages to read like a book. It was going up and down. It's because it defaults in a vertical view. You have the option to either leave it in vertical view, and it'll show you the little arrows, horizontal view, or a 2-page. I keep horizontal view, and what horizontal view pretty much is that it will read like a book. So this is how I do my planning. This is my month. This is the current week I'm in. This is last week, and so forth and so on. So that's how I do that. And then you do have an option for 2 pages. 2 pages is very interesting. I can definitely show you how that works. I'm going to zoom. Oops, I thought I was zoom. Whoops. Sorry, I was like extreme close up. Okay, so I've zoomed you out. Two-page view works best when you are working with a document that is portrait, and it literally gives you 2 pages. Now, my suggestion is to work in portrait. So your document is portrait, but maybe to have your iPad in landscape, because you can see when I have it in portrait, it's giving me like a 1.5-page view until you like zoom out. So if you want to see 2 pages at a time, that's what a 2-page view is. But I personally feel that it works best in a portrait document, but with a landscape iPad. So turning your iPad landscape. So that's, and then even on a blank page, it'll put like a little line here so you can tell the difference between the 2 pages. But this is page 1 and this is page 2. Now let's look at my planner. Again, you can definitely use it still for the landscape type planner, but give me a second. Like you can sort of see, I guess that's not a good example. Maybe if I go to my November, let me go here. Okay, so like this is, it's the same type deal, I guess. And I guess that's not horrible. I can still see my overview month, but I can also still see what's going on this week, and I'm okay to zoom in and zoom out. I feel like if you are already using landscape, you already sort of have a built-in 2-page view, which is why I don't personally feel the need to use the 2-page view, but it is there if that's something that you're interested in. I'm going to change mine back to just a horizontal, and I'm going to zoom it in because that's how I like to use my planner. Okay, so next in here, so we've talked about the page view. We're going to talk about the toolbar position, which is really, really cool. I, until recently, did a left toolbar position. I think this is the way that it defaults when you download the app, and I just sort of kept it that way. And I really did like it that way for a while. I liked, I don't know, it's just the way that it came, and we can talk about toolbar customization as well, but that's just the way that it came, and I got used to doing it that way. And then I one day just was playing around and decided to turn it from the side to the top. And I feel like that kind of helps when you're trying to get a full screen. So, I mean, if this is technically as full as the screen will get here, it still gave me a little black bar, and it's usually better. I should put it in light mode so that you can sort of really get the full effect of this. But yeah, this is if you're somebody that the gray or the black, depending on which mode you have it in, bothers you, being able to put the toolbar up at the top sort of helps take care of that. It's already less noticeable when you are in dark mode anyway, but there is a way that you can do it. So this is what it looks like when it's on the side in light mode. To change it, I keep mine in the top. And I don't know, I just like in light mode, everything just looks, you still get a little tiny bit of it down here, but I just feel like you have more control over a full screen view, very much like in GoodNotes if you're somebody who's coming from GoodNotes. You can also put it on the right side. I'm right-handed. I've never done this. I've heard that a lot of right-handed people do want to do it this way. I don't know. I feel like that sort of gets in my way. That's just me. And then you can put it at the bottom, which I guess would also be cool. The one problem that I have with putting it at the bottom is that when you use text, so if you tap to insert text, you also have your text menu that pops up at the bottom. And I think that's the only place this is. So your toolbar goes away. Whereas when my toolbar is at the top, I can have my regular toolbar here. Let me get out of this so you can see it. You see how my regular toolbar is here, and I can still have that open text bar at the bottom. So personal preference, I like it at the top. It works best for me. I also have done it on the left side. As you can see, that text bar is still there if you need it, but I don't know. That's just my personal preference. Also you have the option to move your tab bar. So your tab bar are the tabs that you have open. These are the 3 that I currently have open. You have the option to put those at the top or at the bottom. I prefer the top because, yeah, I'm just used to it. That's the way that it defaults. So that's the way that I'm used to seeing it. Okay, one of my favorite things to do, and it just depends on how you feel and what you use that for. A lot of the times when I'm using this app, I'm doing exactly what I'm doing now. I'm teaching and I'm showing things on my iPad, either on TikTok on here, or I'm actually taking notes for work. And I prefer to toggle on keep iPad awake. I have found that that does not take up as much battery as you would expect. I use my iPad all day long, so I usually have to charge the battery in the evening anyway. So it doesn't bother me. But if you want the iPad to stay awake, you would want to do that and toggle this on. Another place that this came in handy is when I was in a split screen and I was trying to transfer my stickers from GoodNotes to Noteful. If you have this toggled on and you're in a split screen on any other app on the iPad will stay awake because this option in Noteful takes precedence, I guess. So I like to keep this on. You also have night mode, which sort of inverts the colors of the planner. Let me go out of this so you can see how night mode works. I know a lot of creators do make night mode content and stuff now. I never really got the idea or like the purpose of night mode, but I mean, I guess it's just something that people use. Okay, next is the status bar. And that just takes the actual like information from your iPad. So like I have mine on do not disturb, the battery percent, the day, the time, and all that stuff. So you can turn that off completely. The ruler, I have mine off right now, but like I was saying earlier, when I turn it on, it sits down here in the, yeah, you can see that, in the lower, I guess, right side, and you can tap it off and on. But I often find that I'm working and this part of my hand will hit down there, so I don't use the ruler much, so I usually keep it toggled off. Same with the zoom window, that will come up down there, and a timer. Again, things that I don't usually use. This is really weird to me to have it in light mode, and let me go back to dark mode. Okay, so what are we at on time? I'm trying to only keep this to like 30 minutes. I can do a part 2 if necessary, but I just sort of wanted to get us started here. Okay, these 3 dots here, we have some option. The first option is paper. So this is, let's say I wanted to change anything in this notebook. I don't use this very often because you can pretty much get to all the same information by hitting your plus sign in your toolbar and going to page. So this is the exact same information. It may have shown up like that for the cover and the paper. So they just have it here. I don't really use that. Share, if I want to share this as a Noteful file, I would choose native Noteful. That's how you share a Noteful file. If I want to share my planner as a PDF, I would click PDF. And then if I want to share it as an image, you would change that there. Usually, most people will share things as Noteful files or images. So you do have to go and change it though whenever you're done. They have a find option. And then this one, I guess, is just like you just type in whatever page you're looking for. I don't really use that one. Down here we have some page options. I have this page pinned, and I want to talk to you guys about pins and sort of keeping things organized. Maybe I'll make another video. Maybe I'll do another video after this one. I'll do 2 parts, and then tomorrow I'll put up another part to talk about organization, because that's when that pinning comes in place. So stay tuned for that. You can expand and resize a page here. This is helpful if you're someone who does a lot of scenery, like creator scenes, realistic stickers, scene planning. And sometimes you'll see creators where they will have like their planner here, and then there'll be like maybe a wood background or like some other kind of background to give them more room, you can definitely expand the page. You can expand it by the little circles on the corners. You can do one, or you can do them all sort of equidistant. If you're going to do that, I would suggest once you get it to wherever you want it expanded, hit this little cog and make sure that you go in and hit page range. You want to hit page range because you want to make sure that it's on your current page instead of all pages. If this were not set on current page, that means it would change the size to every page in this document. And I may just want a cutie little background on this one page and not the rest of the document. So make sure if you're going to be changing and resizing, make sure that you click on page range and make sure that's set to current page. And then I just hit reset and it bounced it back. Or you can literally just sort of pull it back and you can sort of see it, grab it. So if you decide to not resize, that's very easy to get out of. Okay. Copy page link. That's more of linking. We can talk about that in another video. Clear page. If I were to hit this, it would clear anything on the page that did not come. I feel like everything in this page, I think this is how it comes. So clicking that would not work. However, on this one, if I were to write, welcome YouTube. That was a weird T. Friends. My handwriting has been so weird today, all day long. And if I hit clear page, it's going to clear everything that's on that page. Pretty self-explanatory. Draw with touch. I have it off. I'm not oh, I know what that is, actually. I was going to say I'm not sure what it is, but yes, I am. I think what that means is that, let's see. Let's try to turn it on. Yeah. So draw with touch means you can use your finger to write rather than your Apple Pencil or your stylus. So that's what that means. And I should turn it off because I keep doing it. Okay, gesture settings. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really use gestures. I do know about the 2-finger tap to undo and then 3-finger tap to redo, but I don't really use them, so I don't have a good example of how to show you that, but you do have that option. Document editing. This is the same one from earlier that was on that Noteful page. And then customize toolbar. So this works a lot like in GoodNotes, where you can change the toolbar and turn some things off. I don't really use the tape. I used to use the tape to hide things I didn't want people to see, but I now use an editing layer, a text layer, I'm sorry, to hide things that I want people to see. So I can actually turn that off. I do use the eraser and the lasso. The hand tool, this is sort of like using, it's like presentation mode. Not presentation tool, that's like the little laser, but it's sort of like putting it in read mode, but in Noteful there's really no reason to put it in read mode, so I don't really keep that on. I keep my text tool on. I don't keep my images on, which is very interesting. I keep my images off because, again, if I need to add an image, I can just go to the plus sign and add it. So that's just something that I do, is keep mine off. Shape tool, yes, the stickers, that is your version of Elements. So if you're from the GoodNotes universe, that's Elements. And I don't use Take a Photo. Of course, I use Insert. I've used Insert like 5 times in this video so far. And then Undo and Redo. So I want to keep this as close to 30 minutes as possible, and I think we're there. So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. I think I'm going to do another video about organization once you get everything in. Some organizational tips and some tricks that I have recently even started to use with like pinning notebooks. I think that's really cool to keep things very organized. So if you are interested in learning more about Noteful, specifically how to organize your Noteful, please watch the next video. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for hanging out.